when's a good time when somebody is starting a new business to come talk to you? I mean,
when they're funded.
When they're funded, yeah. So, I mean, is it, but I think maybe even before that, I mean, to really say who am I going to work with and how I'm going to do it, or help them be prepared to go out and ask for the funding.
Ideally, yeah. We'd like to be at the table as soon as possible. I think that even if a company isn't quite sure where they're going to take it, we can bring a lot to that discussion. We can help them decide what really are the priorities. If you're trying to, take a business and you want to do service X and you want to reach company A, what really has to happen for that? Do you really need to have a website and a print piece and a, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Or can you get by with just this in this vehicle to begin with so that you can really stretch your dollars as you get rolling? So being able to come to the table and provide that kind of input, I think, can be very useful for a company. But they really have to understand the value of it. They have to understand that it is more than just a logo. It is more than just making it pretty. What we bring to the table really is part of solving their business challenge. And is the goal for us is not to make them look good and win a design award. The goal for us is to be able to help them get from point A to point B successfully and hopefully quickly, be able to do what it is they're trying to accomplish. A lot of companies will call us up and say, I have $500 and I need a logo and stationery and website and a brochure, and and I'm just like, well, go online. There's lots of great websites you can crowdsource on, and they'll give you, something you can get started with.
Yeah. I think always, like, when you go to business, start. It doesn't mean you're not going to grow into it. Get out there and do it. Don't be afraid. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can change your logo and your mark later on if you need to. I mean, it's where you go.
Right.
And I was surprised, but, it's like as we grew, we really changed what we were, but it was all for the better. Yeah. And I really like where we are now. I really feel good about it.
You grow into your brand.
You do grow. I like that. You grow into your brand. Yeah. As a person, I mean, even as an individual, I think you grow into your brand and you begin to say what expresses me, from the way we do our hair to the clothes we choose and all the jewelry we wear. All those other things are part of our brand.
Right.
Which I think is really, really, hopefully we do pretty well. I think we try. Yeah, exactly. Well, as you know, my husband's my stylist, so he actually is my brand. My style, my hair guy is a guy, so men actually do my personal branding. So today, now, where you are in your company, are you happy where you are? Where do you want to see it go? What are the challenges?
Incredibly happy. This is my third company, and all of them have done very similar things. But in this one, we really have the freedom to do it the way we think best. We're not tied to having to feed the beast, so to speak. I don't have a huge office with a lot of overhead and things that we have to pay for. We've kept it really streamlined so we can focus our time and energy and effort on the stuff that matters. And I love the people. The team that we have assembled is amazing. We've all been working together at least 5 years, some longer. And we get it. We all can finish each other's sentences. We understand how it is that we're supposed to be doing stuff and how we work together best. And each of us knows our strengths, and we can play to them together. So it's a very fun place to work. And people out in the community and in the business world are really starting to get the value of it and understand what it is that we even do. So now the clients are coming to the table at a better place as well. And it's making it a much richer experience.
And I think that's part of the creative process, and I think when you're creative, because I find the same thing, especially if you're a creative person, you don't want to be locked in to all of the stuff that ties you down in the business. And we always think having a big office and doing all these things makes us more successful. I don't think they necessarily do. No. I think being creative means being different. I mean, it takes risk and to get out there and do things differently. So how do you feel about failure? Because risk often is followed by failure. So how do you cope with that?
Actually, I think that failure comes before success, obviously, is the way to think about it. It's not so much that I'm going to take a risk and fail as much as I'm going to fail and fail and fail and fail and succeed.
Right.
So
right.
I think failure is required. I have so many failures that I have joyfully jumped into.
Many of us can say that, yeah.
There are a lot of
Great
them. I've learned a lot of
time.
lessons.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to share them with everybody so they don't have to make my mistakes. They can make their own. But I think they're required. They're painful when you're going through them. They don't feel good. They cost you a ridiculous amount of money every single time. But they are what allows us to move forward. So I'm okay with it.
I find that failure can be a gift. Mistakes can be a gift. I always find, too, at the most dire points in my life, the biggest challenge, the greatest losses, the deepest sadness, that behind that is this amazing gift. And it is, I think I know somebody who told you that once, didn't they? I did. Yeah, and I said, call me when that moment happens.
Yeah.
And is that not true, though? Have you not found that to be true?
Absolutely.
That is no matter how hard, and you've gone through with me through those tough times, and then at the end of it is this miraculous thing that happens, and it was always for the best.
Yeah.
So I always, when I'm going through tough times, I go, just show me the, just get the other side. Just get the other side, you know?
It'll look
or I
at it on
have
the
this
other side.
conversation with God. You have a natural blonde. You have to make the message simpler. Don't make it a complex lesson. I'll do it. Send me a memo. You know, it's always this conversation. So where do you see your company going in the future?
Oh, more of what we're doing and bigger. I don't want to be a huge conglomerate. I don't want to have to go and get the overhead of the big building with our logo on top, though that would be kind of cool. I'd like to give more and more creatives who are out there sort of struggling to try and make it work the opportunity to come in under the umbrella, to be part of the Red Thinking team, to be able to go out and do the exciting stuff we do every day and enjoy what they do every day without the stresses of trying to do it themselves.
So what does it mean to be a red thinker? What does red thinking mean to you? I mean, that's a brand. So
Yeah.
what does that mean?
It's passionate. It's figuring out where you're going to go and how are you going to get there and how can you do it creatively. I mean, how can you do it better than the next person? How can you take a resource you previously looked at in a completely different way and use it over here instead? And it's being able to think outside the box, not even in the same zip code as the box. I mean, you want to be way out there and be able to come at something from a completely different angle and get where you want to go.
I think that's really true, and I love that. You know, don't go in the front door, go in the back door.
Yeah.
And it's going to tell you a lot, you
Yeah.
know. And look, and that's one thing I always talk to people about. Well, I'm small and I'm doing this. I said, innovation happens on the fringe.
Yeah.
Innovation does not necessarily, it's like big companies. You become, what happens when you become a conglomerate is you're a conglomerate. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds
You can't
heavy.
turn on a dime.
No, you can't. And that's what I love about small businesses. I go, great idea, let's do it.
Yeah.
You can do that when you're a small business.
And then
When
you call
you're
me.
Big, yeah. When you're big, you got to kind of, pull the chains
Yeah.
and you try to get attention. And there's a million reasons why you can't do something. I want all the reasons why you can.
Exactly.
Don't tell me why I can't. Tell me why I can. Tell me the how.
Yeah.
Is it breaking rules? I love it.
Have you ever heard of when you're in a brainstorming session, you should never say but, you should say yes, and.
That's actually, we just recently learned that.
Yeah.
And, in fact, we learned that in improv. I mean, the things you learn about business in improv.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned is I'm not a good ham. I act like it, but I'm not. But I also laughed so hard I cried watching these incredible women express themselves in improv. But it's the yes and.
Yeah.
So always use yes and. When you're challenging something and you're around the table, tell everybody that no is not the option, yes and. So, and that is just what changes the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting when you begin to think about that. I think I'm a proponent. I think you've known me long enough to know
Yeah.
I'm the yes and girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It rewires things in your brain when you
It
start
really
to do that.
does. It really, really does. It really, really does. So let's talk about where you are right now in your life and what's going on. You've had a lot of stuff going on, but let's step back
Yeah.
one and talk about how you were raised and tell me about your upbringing and where you were born and all that other stuff, because we always think that's part of the journey of describing who we are today as well.
Well, I was born in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a Midwest cheese girl. Still order my cheese from Wisconsin. I moved around a fair amount when I was little. My dad was a graduate student in Madison, Wisconsin, and then moved to Utah and then Philadelphia with teaching positions. And then down here, and he actually has just retired. He's a professor at GW, and now he's a dean down there instead. He couldn't really retire, but he got out of teaching and is now doing something else. So I have a younger sister, and we came down here to the Virginia area when I was in 4th grade. And I've been here ever since, and grew up. My parents are still in the same place in Annandale, and when I moved out, I moved into the city, and then I moved successively further and further and further away from the city. And now I'm out near Dulles Airport, and I love the area. I love the people. I love the flow of international that comes through this region.
That's true.
I mean, so much happens here. You can't really get bored.
This is true.
Yeah.
If you're a success in the city or you live here,
Right, exactly.
you're not going to get bored, that's
Yeah.
for sure. That's for sure. But your dad was in a really interesting, what he taught. He taught,
Radio, TV, and telecommunications policy, history, and
that is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see why his knowledge and expertise would be invaluable in the school system.
oh yeah,
And, in the
absolutely.
university system today.
And he's also a major reader and writer. He's an author of ridiculous number of books. But the cool thing is that growing up in that environment, I mean, I lived in a library. All of the walls in our houses, everywhere we've ever lived, were all bookshelves. And actually where they are now, the spare bedroom has shelves back to back down the center of it so that they can put more books, so it was,
Oh,
we just had
wow.
them around all the time. And I grew up a reader, and my daughter now actually is growing up a reader. And I love it because you can entertain yourself, you can teach yourself, you can learn new things, and there's nothing that caps it. There's nothing that controls it. You can do it as much or as often as you want, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things that I picked up as a kid.
I think reading, and I did that. That was key. That was one of the things that was taught in my childhood too. Was that, and we traveled every year. So I mean, we packed up a house, but we always had lots of books.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, it was key and it was important. So much so that I started reading to my children when they're 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
And my son could read it too. My daughter, I didn't read as much to her because I had him.
Yeah.
But she read at 3, and they're both have voracious appetites for books.
Yeah.
Both of them are avid readers, and I think that we need to get them. You just don't know what children are picking up, but I remember I would be able to read Dr. Seuss, big A, little A, what begins with A, Apple, Annie, alligator, A. Could read with his eyes closed. And my son, when he's a baby, would put his little baby hand on me, and like I past 2 pages.
Yeah.
Like, oh, big B, little B.
I know. When Rachel started reading, I couldn't skip words and pages anymore when I was trying to keep it short so she'd go to bed sooner.
Right.
Yeah, she caught me.
But I love it. I think reading's important, and I think it does wiring for our brains too. That's so
Yeah.
important. And you think about new ideas,
Yeah.
even whether it's fiction or nonfiction or whatever it is. I think reading is one of the most important things we do.
Absolutely.
So you hang out with your folks a lot then.
I see them a fair amount. Yes, yeah, they are local. But running a business, I'm a pretty busy person. My dad actually likes to rib me a lot because he'll call and say, "Oh, let's go have lunch." I'm like, "Okay, I'd be great. How about 3 weeks from now?"
Yeah, I know.
He's
I
like,
know.
"What?"
Same here. You
Yeah.
know, it's like my family's trying to do family meetings. I mean, we make family appointments. We call
Yeah.
family meetings like Super Bowl is family night.
Yeah.
And I get invited stuff. I can't go. Family dinner. It's the rule when we call family dinner. Everybody has to be there. It's
Yeah.
just the rule. And we make appointments. And one of my nieces always goes, "Well, let me check. I've got Aunt Cin's calendar's password, so I'll go see if she can do it." So it really is so different. Today. I mean, just like I'm booked, even for my family. It's like, let me see if I can get you on the calendar.
But it's hard because I've realized a long time ago, but I guess I'm more conscious of it currently, that I need to really go in there and make appointments for myself, and I haven't done that. All of my
I think that's
appointments
a
are for other
really,
people.
really great point. One of the things that I've started doing is I try to save Mondays and Fridays as administrative days, because if you don't give yourself those times to get things done, you're perpetually behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
And I know people wouldn't do one day. I like to have 2 days, and I also then can give those up. Or like today's a Friday. And,
Yeah.
we said we're going to do this on today because the date worked for everybody. We've got certain things, and I go a couple meetings here. But
Right.
I always feel like you've got to be able to start the week and end the week and feel like you've at least
Got
caught up.
something done.
Well, something done, yeah. Not ever caught up. That's impossible. That's impossible. So I know you've kind of had a tough year, and I don't want to talk a lot, but Chick Chat is about the challenges we all face, and we've all been there, and we all will. If somebody's going to go through it that we know or anything, and you're going through kind of a tough time right now. You and your husband, after being married for a number of years, are getting a divorce or separated.
Separated. Divorce is imminent. I think that, it's been a challenging summer. This past summer was when the conversation started. And it was a surprise, and I didn't know it was coming. And it was a bit of a challenge to sort of accept it when it was happening. But then, of course, I went into woman entrepreneur mode, and I just went into logistics. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and I put the rest of it away. But I have found that the network within Success in the City has been incredibly helpful to me for many reasons. If I need to consult somebody on it, well, how do I do X? I can call somebody. Or, hey, I need some cocktails right now.
Yeah.
I can call somebody.
Yeah.
So it's been very helpful to have the girlfriend network, the support as I go through it. But I've also made the conscious decision to be very open about it as I go through it, because I know that a lot of women in the group and beyond are going through similar things, and they need to understand that they're not alone and that other people are going through these things too, and how you choose to deal with it makes a huge impact on your life and your children's lives. So